Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. So I'm going to show you today how to make a simple pasta sauce using sausages, tomatoes and a few other veg as well. Okay, so what you're going to need for today's recipe is you're going to need the following. You're going to need some sausages, okay? Now, your call. If you're vegetarian and vegan, you've got alternatives out there, you can use those as well. They'll work perfectly well in this recipe and some of them are really nice. If you're not, you can got your entire choice of the butcher section at any supermarket that you go to. Try and pick something with herbs, okay? I'm using Lincolnshire sausages today because we want stuff that's inside the sausage. I'll talk about that in a second, but we want whole herbs and stuff in there. So try and pick a flavourful one, or experiment with some more chili ones and stuff like that and see what you like. You're also going to need peppers. You're going to need 2. Different colours are good, but if you've only got 2 red ones, that's fine. But if you try and mix and match the colours, then you get a bit extra vitamins and stuff in there as well. An onion, 2 tins of chopped tomatoes. If you use plum tomatoes, also fine, you just break them up in the pan, so that's good as well. You will also need some garlic, okay, and you're also going to need herbs, and I'm going to put a little bit of chili powder, crushed chilies in mine because I want that little bit of heat. I'm not going to put a lot in, just a tiny little bit, okay, about half a teaspoon, barely anything, but just to add a little bit of heat to the recipe. With herbs, I'm going to use a combination of fresh rosemary, it's one of my favourite herbs, and I'm going to use dried oregano. Okay, if you can't get fresh herbs or just out of your price range, do not worry, just use dried. Use whatever you want. Use basil, oregano, dried rosemary, sage, anything you can. Any green herb is good for this. Experiment and try a few different things. Okay, entirely up to you. It's a dish that you can play around with. I'm also going to need pasta. I'm using rigatoni, you use whatever you want, okay? Your call. Depending on how many you cook for, this sauce recipe, you'll probably get about 5 or 6 people served from it. So that means you're going to need about 80 to 90 grams of pasta per person, okay? So do the maths yourself, depending on how many is in your family. So we'll start off with that as usual, with prepping everything so we can just quickly go through the recipe once everything's done. So I'm going to start off with the veg. I'm not going to touch the meat just yet because I want to avoid any cross-contamination issues. So we'll start off with the pepper, as you all know, straight down the centre until you've got 2 halves like that. Then simply fingers in between, thumb behind the green and just pull, and that will take out the centre. Then what you need to do is you need to put into slices, and with those slices I would recommend you do it in half. Okay, if you want to dice it, perfectly fine. Again, your recipe, you play around, but that's a good size, okay, for the pepper. Okay, with the onion, straight down through the root and the stalk. Get it peeled. Don't try to go an extra layer if you need it. Okay, keep your surface tidy, keep it clean. Then stalk off. Then slice down towards the root using your claw grip all the way down. Don't cut through the root. Make sure you keep it nice and neat and tidy as well. Stop before you get to the bottom. Then turn it round and basically this way. So you've gone down towards the root. Now we're going to go across, okay? And that will end up with your diced onion. So do that with both sides, okay? Nice and easy. Take your time, get the prep done. It's the most important part of the recipe. Okay, with the garlic, so you've got top and tail each clove. Use 1 or 2. If you want to put a 3rd clove in there, feel free. Can't have too much garlic. Squash it with the flat of your knife. So take off all the peel. You can see I'm binning as I go. If there's a little green stalk inside, because it's slightly older garlic, so maybe about a week old, you can leave it in, but it is quite bitter, so you can just simply take it out, okay, and use the rest of it, okay, and the rest of it will be fine. Then into small pieces. If your knife skills are really good, you can get it really, really fine, or use a fork, and then you can simply just mash it up into small pieces. Try not to fire garlic across the kitchen. Mash it up into a puree. There's your garlic done. Now with the herbs, depending on the type of herb you choose, if you've got rosemary, it's got a stalk all the way through it. You can't really eat that stalk. It cooks, but it doesn't go soft, so you'll end up having to pick it out anyway. So all you got to do is go, whichever the leaves are growing that way, do the opposite and just pull them, or pull them all off, okay, like that. Then you've got your herb leaves into a little pile, and do that with as much herbs as you like. I'm going to use 3 stalks of rosemary. So I'm going to take them all off, and once I've done all that with the herbs that I've done, so use my knife again, I'm just going to simply just chop them up into small pieces. Don't need to be neat, just roughly chop them, okay? You don't want to do too much. And if there's big pieces that get left in there, that's fine. So get all your veg prepped, okay? So the veg should be prepped now, so now we're going to look at the sausages. Okay, so what we're after is after the inside of them, okay? The reason being is because the skin doesn't cook well in a frying pan. And if we take the mince part out of it, it cooks really well and it breaks down, it goes into the sauce and it sort of combines it, a bit like a bolognese, okay? But we need to get out of the skin. You can, if you don't want to do this step, put them on a baking tray, 200 degrees in oven for about 15 to 20 minutes until they go golden brown. Then slice them up and add them to the sauce. You can do it that way. But if you're going to do it this way, all you need to do, get yourself a sharp knife and just gently carve at the top. Don't go all the way down. And then just, yeah, it's gruesome this part. Peel off the skin until you've got the inside. Then you can get rid of the skin like you would the rest of your waste, okay? And do that again. So I'll show you one more time. So knife, gently carve. So you cut through just a little bit, not deep, and then just gently pull off the skin, and you've got the inside with all that flavour in there. Because if you cook it in a frying pan, this skin that I'm taking off tends to seize up and it doesn't cook really nice at all. Now this will just simply break up and you've got that mince that you can use. So make sure that's done with all of them. Right, so I'm going to start cooking them now. So make sure before you start at this point, you've got all your vegetables prepped, all your herbs ready, your garlic cut up, your sausages skinned and ready to go, your tins opened as well, and that you are good to go. So you get your pan on. You need about a tablespoon of oil. Olive, sunflower, vegetable, whatever you've got, doesn't really matter. Make sure you've got enough in there. I'm going to start off cooking the sausages because we want to break them up and we want them to, well, become a mince instead of the sausage shape. So I'm just going to put them straight in so you can see they're all ready to go. Reminds you about meat hygiene, don't put anything on the board, get it cleaned as soon as you can, make sure your hands are washed after you come in contact with it. And all we're going to do now is just going to break this up. As it cooks, it becomes a lot easier to break up and you'll hear the sizzling start. So while it doesn't look like it's going right at the start, once it starts to cook, you'll see what happens to it and it will mix into the sauce quite well. Now we've got rid of the outer casing. I shouldn't really call it skin because it's not skin, just the outer casing of the sausage. Once we've got rid of it, then we can start to cook off this. Like I said earlier, you can see all the little spots, all those herbs, all the pepper in there, all flavour that we're going to get out of it and we're going to use properly to make a really tasty sauce. So just cook that off until it's golden brown and broken down. It takes about 5 gentle minutes of cooking. We're cooking for about 4 or 5 minutes now, and you see it's broken up, it's starting to sort of mince now. That's what we're after. We get some colour on there so you can see the golden brown appearing. That's what you want, that's flavour. Make sure you get that happening. And just treat it now like mince, because that's essentially what you're dealing with. You get rid of all the pink bits. If you do miss some pink bits, don't worry. You are going to continue to cook this in the sauce, so it will cook by the end of the recipe. So you're not going to cause anybody any food poisoning, so don't worry about that. That's what we're after. It's all broken up. Once it's all broken up, then you can start adding things to it. So we're going to start by adding the vegetables. So we're going to add the onion first. The onion can take a lot of heat, so it always goes in first. We're adding the meat first because we're going to make sure it's safe. I'm just going to stir that in. And give it a chance to get soft and translucent. We'll mix up. It should be smelling lovely now, depending on the type of sausages you use. You should be smelling all those herbs, even though we haven't actually put any herbs in there. Now it's completely breaking up and mixing up. Any big pieces, just mash them up and get them in there. And I'm going to put the peppers in, just alongside the onions, just for them to soften up. Cook that gently for about 5 minutes until the peppers are nicely soft. So I've been cooking this for 5 minutes. You see the peppers are starting to go soft now. Nothing's burning because there is plenty of fat in there from the sausages, and we added fat at the start. And as long as you keep it moving in your pans decent, it shouldn't catch. But if you leave it alone, it will. So now we're going to start adding flavour to this before we add any liquid. So we're going to add the garlic and the herbs. Gently put them in. Just a little tiny bit of chilli flakes, just a little bit. Don't want a lot. I don't want to ruin this by adding too much heat. Barely anything. You don't even have to put it in at all if you don't want to. Oregano, use dry oregano. Good sprinkle, about a tablespoon if you want to measure it. And then we're going to add seasoning, so we're going to add a little bit of salt. Remember, there is salt in the sausages, so you don't want to add too much to it. So just add a little bit, about half a teaspoon. And then we're just going to add pepper to it as well, just to finish it off. Just a little ground pepper, a little bit of seasoning. I'm going to stir all that in. And it should smell really, really nice now. So give it a chance to cook. Get a bit of heat on the herbs and the seasoning just to let it do its thing. Make sure that sausage is starting to go really brown, because that is a lot of the flavour. You can see there, that is a lot of flavour occurring there. Caramelisation is what you want. And then we're just going to make it into a sauce. So we're just going to have the tins of tomatoes. 2 full tins, and with one of the tins, about 3/4 full of water, and just tip that in as well. It'll make it watery, but you want it because it needs to simmer away for a good 15 minutes. So tip that in as well, shake it on the can so you don't waste all that good tomatiness, and then just stir it in, turn the heat right down, and just let it do its thing for about 15 minutes. The longer the better, basically. No rush once you get to this stage. Just turn it down, and then that's pretty much it. I'll show you the bit at the end. Okay, it's been cooking for about 15 to 20 minutes on a reasonably vigorous bubble. I might turn that down just a little tiny bit. So as you can see, the sauce has gone really thick. You can cook it for just a little bit longer and thicken it up if you want, but that is what you're looking for, okay? So now you just need to cook your pasta. This, like I say, will feed about 5 to 6 people. You can see there's loads of sauce, so it stretches quite a long way. 80, 90 to 100 grams of pasta per person. Make sure your water is boiling before you put your pasta in. Don't put it in cold. And put plenty of salt in the water as well. And just follow your packet instructions, because every type of pasta is different. Some take 8 minutes, some take 9, 10. It just depends on what you're going to use. And there you go. Enjoy.